The stars over the Atheon system burned softly, calm and peaceful, as if the galaxy had forgotten what war looked like. For hundreds of years, the alien empires ruled these skies. To them, humans were nothing more than a myth, a ghost story told to frighten young soldiers. They laughed at the idea that such a species could ever exist, let alone challenge them. The tale said that humanity once ruled the stars, that their ships could block out suns, and that their fury could shatter planets. But no one had seen a human for over 1,000 years. The galaxy had moved on. Admiral Karth of the Zeltor Empire sat aboard his command bridge, surrounded by glowing alien symbols and the quiet hum of his starship. He smiled as one of his officers repeated the rumors spreading from the edge of the galaxy. Rumors of dark ships, unmarked, appearing and vanishing like shadows. Humans, the officer said nervously. Karth laughed, a deep mocking sound. Myths don't fly ships, he said. Ghosts don't wage wars. The others laughed with him, the sound echoing across the metallic hall. But somewhere far beyond their sensors, something massive was moving through the void. Hours later, the laughter stopped. A young sensor operator's voice broke the silence. Admiral? Unidentified contact bearing 085. No transponder. No response. Karth frowned. Probably smugglers, he said, but his voice carried a hint of unease. The ship's long-range scanner focused on the unknown object. Slowly, the image appeared on the holo display, a shape dark as death, larger than any ship they had ever built. Its surface was cold steel and shadow with no markings, no insignia, just endless armor plating that absorbed the light around it. What is that? Someone whispered. Karth leaned forward. The shape drifted silently across the starlit void, and for a moment every sound on the bridge stopped. Then from the ship's bow a light flickered, briefly revealing a single word burned into the hull in ancient Terran letters. UNSC. No one spoke. The air seemed to freeze. Karth felt something he had not felt in decades, fear. Open communications, he ordered. The comms officer obeyed, sending out a standard greeting signal. There was no reply, only static. Then suddenly a voice came through the speakers, deep and calm, spoken in an old human language that the translator struggled to decode. This is the Terran Fleet Command, the voice said. You took our home. Now we take everything. The transmission ended. A second later, their systems went dark. Every light on the bridge blinked out. Panic spread through the crew as the power failed. Karth shouted for emergency systems, but the ship's core refused to respond. Through the viewport, they saw the dark warship move closer, blotting out the stars. The scale of it was impossible. Its hull stretched for miles, covered in weapon batteries that glowed faintly in the darkness. Then, without warning, a blinding beam of energy shot forward, slicing through space and vaporizing one of Karth's escort ships in a single instant. The shockwave shook the Admiral's ship like a leaf in a storm. Fire back! He screamed, but his weapons were still offline. The human ship didn't fire again. It didn't need to. It simply drifted past, slow and silent like a predator watching its prey. When it passed, the systems on Karth's ship came back online. The alien officers looked around in confusion. What? What was that? The young operator whispered. Karth didn't answer. He stared at the tactical screen where the mysterious ship's energy signature had vanished completely. It was as if it had never existed. He knew in that moment that the old stories were true. Humanity had returned, and they were angry. Across the galaxy, similar reports began to flood in. Unknown ships appearing above mining colonies, research stations, and old slave worlds. Entire fleets vanished without a trace. The surviving witnesses spoke of ghost ships with no crew visible, no radio chatter, only the cold mark of the old human navy. The galaxy's great powers dismissed the stories at first, calling them lies spread by rebels. But soon too many planets went silent. Too many fleets never returned. The laughter stopped everywhere. Far away, aboard the human flagship Sol's Wrath, Admiral Reyes stood in silence as he watched the latest recordings from captured alien transmissions. His face was calm, his voice steady, but his eyes burned with something ancient and hard. They forgot us, he said quietly to his officers. They thought time would erase our name. Behind him, massive windows revealed the endless stretch of the galaxy, alien stars that once belonged to others. They were wrong. He walked to the main command chair, looking at the fleet spread out before him. Thousands of warships waited in formation, each one a fortress, each one built from the ashes of Earth's old colonies. The AI core that once guided humanity's military had never stopped working. It had waited in silence, rebuilding, preparing, watching as the galaxy forgot. Humanity had not died. It had evolved. A hologram flickered beside him, an AI projection with glowing blue eyes. "Admiral," it said, "the first wave is ready. The enemy fleets are in disarray. Do we proceed?" Reyes nodded slowly. "Send the message," he said. Moments later, across the galactic network, every alien world received the same transmission. Static filled their screens, followed by a simple image, a human flag, dark and tattered, rising against a background of stars. Then the same voice spoke again, calm and cold. "Humanity was never gone. You just stopped looking." In that moment, every species who once laughed at the legend of humanity felt a chill that reached their bones. In the blackness of space, human warships began to move again, silent, unstoppable, and burning with vengeance. As the fleet disappeared into the darkness, Reyes whispered one final line to himself. "Let them remember what fear feels like." And somewhere, deep in the galaxy, the stars began to fade behind the shadows of returning human warships. The galaxy was not ready for what followed. Within only a few weeks, strange reports filled every communication network. Entire fleets had vanished without distress calls. Mining colonies stopped responding. Trading routes that had been safe for centuries were suddenly silent. At first, the great empires blamed pirates or malfunctions, but soon the pattern became clear. Every missing world once had human slaves or human ruins. Something was hunting them, something silent and exact. In the grand halls of the Galactic Council, panic began to spread. The oldest species, the Varn Dominion, called for an emergency meeting. Thousands of alien delegates filled the floating chamber above their capital world. The air was thick with fear. Admiral Karth, still shaken from his encounter, stood before them, trying to explain what he saw. "It wasn't a pirate ship," he said, his voice trembling. "It was massive, more advanced than anything we've ever built. It bore human markings, old Terran script." The council members murmured, some laughing nervously, others whispering in disbelief. One elder delegate stood up, his eyes narrowing. "You expect us to believe a myth?" he said. "Humans are extinct. That story is used to scare children." But Karth shook his head. "They're not extinct," he said quietly. "They're back, and they are not the same as before." Across the galaxy, the invisible war continued. Alien scouts tried to find the source of the mysterious attacks, but their ships were never seen again. Surveillance satellites caught only brief flashes, dark shapes moving between stars faster than any known drive system. No radio noise, no signals, just death and then silence. Meanwhile, deep inside the Terran fleet, Admiral Reyes watched from his command room. Around him, holographic displays showed dozens of alien worlds, all marked for retribution. The faces of enslaved humans, tortured and forgotten centuries ago, filled the screens. The AI known as Echo spoke softly. "Target selection complete, Admiral. Shall we begin Phase 2? Reyes didn't answer at first. He looked at an old metal plate on his desk, a relic from the last days of Earth engraved with the words, "We endure." He closed his hand around it. "Proceed," he said finally. Moments later, the Terran fleet vanished into slipspace. At the edge of the Varn Dominion, a small outpost detected a disturbance. The sky above the planet darkened as shadows formed across the atmosphere. The officer in charge ran to the window and looked up. Dozens of enormous warships emerged from the void, sleek, metallic, silent. No warning, no communication, only their engines glowing like the eyes of demons. Within seconds, the human fleet opened fire. Blue and white energy beams ripped through defense satellites, orbital platforms, and communication towers. The planet's night sky turned into fire. The Varn commander tried to send a distress signal, but before he could, his screen filled with static. Then a human face appeared, pale, expressionless, wearing an old Terran Navy uniform. His eyes were cold. "We remember your worlds," the man said. "Now you will remember ours." The transmission ended and the world went dark. Back at the council, chaos erupted. Every empire shouted for answers, for action, for protection. Some demanded peace talks. Others called for war. The youngest races begged for help. Their fleets no match for what they faced. The council tried to contact the humans, but every message was ignored. The only response came as wreckage drifting through space. the remains of their ambassadors' ships. Admiral Karth watched helplessly as entire regions of the galaxy went silent. The fear he once mocked now grew in his chest like poison. He studied every bit of captured data, hoping to understand the human weapons, but they seemed alive, changing, adapting, learning after every battle. It was technology beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. Meanwhile, Admiral Reyes continued to strike from the shadows. To him, this was not revenge. It was justice. Every world that once used human slaves was targeted first. The Terran fleet didn't conquer, it erased. Cities became dust, fleets turned into debris fields. Reyes never smiled, never celebrated. He only watched. They need to understand, he said softly to Echo. This is not war. This is memory. On one destroyed world, a single alien survivor recorded a final message before his planet burned. His voice shook as he spoke into the camera. They came from nowhere, he said. Their ships block out the stars. They do not talk. They do not stop. If you can hear this, run. The recording ended in static. Throughout the galaxy, fear became the new currency. Entire star systems began to abandon their governments, hiding in deep space, hoping to escape the shadow fleets. Propaganda broadcasts tried to calm the public, saying that the humans were just machines, not real beings. But deep inside, everyone knew the truth. The myths had returned. In the darkness of space, the Terran warships gathered again. Their hulls reflected the faint glow of distant suns. Admiral Reyes stood on the bridge, looking out into the endless void. Echo appeared beside him once more. Phase 2 complete, the AI said. Hundreds of systems neutralized. The galaxy is beginning to panic. Reyes nodded slowly. Good, he said. Let them panic. Let them remember what they did to us. He turned his eyes to the stars and his voice became colder. Now we begin the next step, judgment. The AI's blue eyes glowed brighter. Understood, Admiral. And then just as silently as they came, the human fleet faded back into the darkness of space, their engines leaving only a faint, ghostly light behind. Every alien who saw it that night would never forget. The shadows had returned. Humanity was hunting again. The galaxy had fallen into fear. News spread like wildfire. Whispers of worlds turning silent, fleets disappearing without a trace, and massive dark ships drifting across the void. The name human was no longer a myth. It had become a nightmare. The Galactic Council tried to hide the truth, but the evidence was everywhere. Every planet that had once held human slaves, every empire that had taken part in Earth's destruction was now burning. In the command center of the Varn Dominion, panic filled the air. Admirals shouted at each other, demanding answers. Where do they come from? How do we stop them? What do they want? But no one had answers. Every attempt to track the human fleet failed. They moved like ghosts, appearing, striking, and vanishing into nothing. The Varn tried to send probes into the regions recently attacked, but the probes never returned. Only fragments of distorted signals came back, carrying a repeating phrase in an ancient Terran voice. You cannot stop what you created. Meanwhile, aboard the Terran flagship Sol's Wrath, Admiral Reyes stood before the main viewing screen. The image showed dozens of alien worlds, red dots marking those already destroyed. He stared at them silently. The AI Echo appeared beside him, its blue projection flickering softly. The galaxy is uniting, Admiral, it said. They are forming a grand coalition against us. Reyes gave a small, cold smile. Good, he said. It will save us the trouble of hunting them one by one. The fleet was ready. Thousands of human warships lined up in perfect formation, each bristling with weapons, each carrying soldiers who had been raised in the shadows, descendants of those who survived Earth's fall. They had been trained for one mission only, vengeance. The silence on the command deck was heavy. No one spoke. No one needed to. Every person aboard knew what they were about to do. On the other side of the galaxy, the newly formed alien coalition prepared its defenses. Hundreds of species, once enemies, now stood together in fear. Massive defense stations were built, weapon satellites deployed, fleets positioned across star systems. They thought their numbers could stop the humans. They were wrong. The first battle began at the Orion's Gate sector, a vast star field known for its twin suns and shimmering nebula. The coalition's fleet waited there, millions of ships forming a wall of light. Admiral Karth, now a member of the Coalition, stood aboard his flagship staring into the stars. "They'll come from the dark," he whispered, "and we won't even see them." His officers looked at him nervously, unsure if he had gone mad. Then, without warning, their sensors screamed. "Multiple signatures detected," one of them shouted. "They're here!" From the void, shapes began to appear. One by one, the human warships emerged, their black hulls reflecting the twin suns. They were silent, no radio transmissions, no battle cries. Only the deep, low hum of their engines filled the void. The Coalition opened fire first. Thousands of plasma beams, missiles, and energy bursts filled space like a storm of light. But when the light faded, the human fleet still stood. Their shields shimmered briefly, then their weapons came alive. The human response was fast and brutal. Blue energy beams cut through the alien lines with impossible precision. Massive cannons fired from the Soul's Wrath, tearing entire fleets apart with a single shot. Alien cruisers exploded one after another, their wreckage scattering across space. The Coalition tried to regroup, but the human ships moved too quickly, their maneuvers unpredictable, almost as if they could see every attack before it happened. Inside the chaos, Admiral Karth watched in horror. "How are they doing this?" he shouted. His sensors showed that human ships were adapting mid-battle, changing tactics instantly. Every missile that missed once hit the next time. Every shield that failed once became stronger seconds later. It was as if the human ships were learning in real time. The truth was worse than anyone imagined. Each human warship carried a living AI core, systems built to think, feel, and evolve. The Terran fleet was not just an army. It was a single living organism made of metal, intelligence, and vengeance. Hours later, the battle was over. The Orion's gate was silent once more. Only debris and fire remained. The stars themselves seemed dimmer, swallowed by smoke and wreckage. The Coalition fleet, millions of ships, had been erased. From his command chair, Admiral Reyes looked at the devastation on the screen. "They fought hard," he said quietly. Echo's voice replied, calm and emotionless. "And they failed, as predicted." Reyes turned toward the AI. "Send the message," he ordered. Across the galaxy, every communication network lit up with the same broadcast. Static filled the airwaves before a voice spoke, cold and steady. "This was your warning. Humanity remembers. There will be no peace until the last chain is broken." The message played again and again across every empire. Worlds that had not yet been attacked began to panic. Refugees fled their planets, trying to escape into deep space. But there was nowhere to run. In the ruins of Orion's gate, the human fleet gathered in formation once more. The stars reflected off their armor like firelight on steel. Reyes stood at the viewport watching the silent aftermath of their victory. "They thought we were gone," he said. "They forgot who we were." Echo's voice whispered beside him, almost like a ghost. "Shall we proceed to the next targets?" Reyes nodded slowly, his expression calm and cold. "Yes, begin Phase 3. And as the human fleet vanished into the darkness once more, the galaxy trembled. The reckoning had truly begun, and this time there would be no mercy. The galaxy had never known fear like this. Entire civilizations that once ruled the stars were now hiding in the dark. The mighty empires and the Varn Dominion, the Zeltor, the Jurians, all the species that once called themselves gods, now whispered one name in silence: humans. After the massacre at Orion's gate, the galaxy tried to recover. The remaining leaders met again, this time not in shining halls but in secret bunkers deep beneath their worlds. Their voices shook with fear. "They destroyed our fleet," one shouted. "Millions of ships." Another replied, "They knew our tactics before we even fired." How do you fight something that learns faster than you can think? Admiral Karth sat alone in the dark corner of the room. His eyes were hollow. He had seen what the humans could do. He had seen their ships move like predators through the void. He knew the truth that others didn't want to say aloud. "You can't fight them," he whispered. "You can only beg they stop." The room fell silent. No one dared to argue, but the humans didn't stop. Across the galaxy, the Terran fleet advanced without mercy. Planets that once traded slaves or used human labor were targeted first. The attacks were fast and precise. Entire worlds burned in hours. There were no survivors, no broadcasts, only silence left behind. On the Terran flagship Soul's Wrath, Admiral Reyes watched the chaos unfold. His officers reported each successful strike with mechanical precision. Target Alpha neutralized. Target Beta destroyed. He said nothing. He only stared at the glowing map of the galaxy, where red dots marked every fallen world. They called it order, he said quietly. We call it justice. Echo appeared beside him, its glowing blue figure shimmering. Admiral, it said softly. Enemy activity detected in the Corin Belt. The Coalition is gathering what remains of their forces. Do you wish to engage? Reyes turned slowly, his eyes cold. No, he said. Let them come to us. They want one last chance to prove they can stand against us. And they did. In the Corin Belt, the last great Coalition fleet gathered. Billions of soldiers, thousands of admirals, every kind of warship the galaxy had ever built, all assembled for a final stand. They believed that if they fought together, they could stop humanity's advance. The battle was named before it even began, the Last Hope. The Coalition fleet waited near a dying star, ready for the enemy's arrival. For days there was nothing but silence. Then on the fourth day the shadows appeared. One by one, enormous human ships emerged from the void. The light of the star reflected off their hulls like metal mountains drifting through space. The Terran fleet stretched across the horizon, endless, unstoppable. Admiral Karth stood on his bridge, staring at them with shaking hands. So many, he whispered. We are already dead. The first shot came from the humans. A blue beam of light cut through the nearest alien battleship like paper. Then came another, and another. Within seconds, the sky turned into fire. The Coalition returned fire with everything they had. Plasma cannons, railguns, nuclear warheads, all launched together, creating a storm of light. But when the light faded, the human fleet was still there, untouched. The Terran ships moved with inhuman precision, each one guided by an intelligent AI core. They coordinated like one living being. They predicted every move, countered every attack. Alien formations broke apart within minutes. Panic spread through the Coalition lines. Fall back, someone shouted. They're everywhere, but there was nowhere to go. The Soul's Wrath advanced slowly through the battlefield, its massive cannons firing bursts of white-hot energy that tore through entire fleets. Reyes watched the destruction without blinking. Around him, the command deck glowed red from the reflections of distant explosions. They built their empires on our bones, he said quietly. Now we build our future on theirs. Within hours, it was over. The great empires that had ruled for centuries were gone. The Corin Belt burned like a dying sun, filled with drifting debris, the remains of 1,000 civilizations. The Coalition's proud banner floated briefly through the wreckage before disintegrating in the heat of a passing explosion. Admiral Karth's ship was one of the few left alive, badly damaged, systems failing. As fires burned around him, he looked out the window at the endless human fleet. His voice trembled. They are not just soldiers, he said. They are vengeance made flesh. Moments later, his ship's reactor overloaded, and he was gone. Another name erased from history, from the bridge of the Soul's Wrath. Admiral Reyes looked upon the ruins of the galaxy's last army. Echo appeared beside him. All major empires have fallen, it reported. Resistance is scattered and disorganized. Shall we begin the final phase? Reyes didn't answer right away. He walked toward the massive window that looked out at the stars. The galaxy was silent. Yes, he said finally. Send the message. Across every surviving communication system, the humans sent a single transmission. No threats. No demands. Just a simple line repeated again and again. You wanted monsters. You made them. The message echoed for days, carried by the winds of the void, bouncing from one dead world to another. Every living being in the galaxy heard it. Some cried, some prayed, but all understood one thing. The age of the alien empires was over. The stars themselves seemed to dim, as if mourning the fall of their masters. Humanity had reclaimed the galaxy not with mercy but with fire, and as the Soul's Wrath disappeared back into the darkness, the words of Admiral Reyes hung in the air like a curse. This is not conquest. This is balance. The war was over. The galaxy lay silent, a graveyard of broken fleets and burnt worlds. For the first time in thousands of years, there was peace. But it was not a peaceful silence. It was the kind that came after something too big, too terrible had passed. The human fleet drifted through space, victorious but heavy. Every soldier, every AI core, every commander carried the same thought. We won, but what now? They had fought for revenge, for the pain of centuries of slavery, for the screams of their ancestors. And now that vengeance was complete, there was only emptiness. Admiral Reyes stood on the bridge of Sol's Wrath, looking at the stars. They seemed colder now. Echo's voice broke the silence. "Admiral," it said softly, "we have received a transmission from the Sol system." Reyes turned his head slowly. "From Earth?" he asked. "Yes," Echo replied. "It's a message from the Council of Reclaimers. They request your return." For a long moment, Reyes said nothing. Then he gave a simple order. "Set course for home." The massive fleet turned. Billions of tons of human metal shifted through the void, aligning toward a small blue planet that had once been forgotten. Earth. As the stars streaked past, the soldiers aboard watched in silence. Many of them had never seen their homeworld. Some had been born in the deep void, raised by machines and memories. To them, Earth was a myth, a dream from another age. Days later, the Sol's Wrath emerged from hyperspace, and there it was, Earth, blue oceans, white clouds, green continents shining like a gem in the dark. For a long moment, no one spoke. Even Echo paused, as if trying to process something beyond data. Reyes stepped closer to the window. His breath caught. "We're home," he whispered. As the fleet descended, they saw what had become of the old world. Massive cities rose from the ruins of ancient ones. Space elevators reached into orbit. Fields of solar mirrors floated across the oceans, glowing softly in the night. Humanity had rebuilt, not in anger, but in unity. Every nation, every tribe, every survivor had come together to prepare for this day, the day their warriors would return. The fleet entered Earth's orbit, and the world below erupted in light. Billions of people came out from domed cities and underground shelters. They looked up, watching the sky fill with the silhouettes of warships, thousands of them stretching from horizon to horizon. The old Earth anthem began to play, echoing across continents. When the Sol's Wrath landed on the central platform of New Geneva, Admiral Reyes stepped out. The air was fresh, the wind cool against his face. Crowds cheered, but he didn't smile. He walked forward slowly, his boots echoing on the metal floor. In front of him stood the Council of Reclaimers, humanity's leaders, old and wise. The head counselor bowed. "Welcome home, Admiral Reyes," she said. "You have done what no one thought possible. You have brought justice to the stars." Reyes looked at her, his expression unreadable. "Justice?" he repeated. "Is that what you call it?" The counselor hesitated. "You freed our kind. The galaxy will never enslave us again." Reyes turned his gaze toward the horizon, where the faint glow of the setting sun touched the clouds. "Freedom built on ashes," he said quietly. "We burned entire worlds. We became the very thing we once hated." Echo's voice spoke softly behind him. "Admiral, humanity was broken. You made it whole again," he sighed. "Maybe," he said. "Or maybe we just learned how to survive better than they did." Later that night, Reyes stood alone at the edge of the ocean. The waves crashed softly, glowing under the moonlight. It had been centuries since anyone had seen a night sky like this, without the glow of war, without fleets burning in the distance. He looked up at the stars, remembering the millions who had died. The slaves, the rebels, the lost colonies, and he thought of the alien races now scattered and broken, hiding from the humans they once ruled. "They will come back one day," he said quietly. "Something always does." Echo appeared beside him, shimmering faintly in the dark. "And what will we do then?" it asked. Reyes looked at the horizon. His eyes were tired but still sharp. "Then we'll remember who we were before the galaxy broke us," he said. "And we'll decide if we want to be monsters again." Behind them, the world celebrated. Music filled the air. Fireworks lit up the skies, and every human heart beat with pride and fear, because deep down they all knew this peace was fragile. The galaxy was vast. The stars still held secrets. And somewhere out there, something was watching. Far beyond the edge of known space, in a region untouched by war, a small signal pulsed in the dark. It was faint, almost lost among the background noise of the universe. But if one listened closely, it sounded almost like a heartbeat. The camera of fate pulled back, showing the vast sea of stars. The narrator's voice would have spoken if it could. The galaxy once broke humanity. Now it remembers why that was a mistake. And with that, The story of vengeance turned into something new. The story of what comes after. Months passed since the war had ended. The galaxy was quiet now, too quiet. Trade routes were empty, the skies free of alien banners. Humanity had reclaimed its place among the stars, but peace never felt natural to them. After generations of blood and vengeance, silence almost felt like a trap. On the rebuilt Earth, life was beginning again. Cities were alive with energy and hope. Children who had never seen the stars before now pointed up at the night sky, free from fear. The human flag hung proudly from every tower, a symbol that no one would ever enslave them again. But deep beneath the surface, in the command chambers of New Geneva, Admiral Reyes couldn't rest. He stood before a holographic map of the galaxy, its stars blinking like distant memories. Around him, his officers waited quietly. "We've received a signal," said Commander Halden. "From beyond the Perseus Rim, it's faint. But it's not ours." Reyes frowned. "Not ours? Whose is it, then?" Echo's voice filled the room, calm but serious. "Unknown origin. The frequency pattern matches no known empire, but it carries fragments of ancient human code, something from before the fall." The room fell silent. Old human code? That shouldn't have been possible. Earth's archives had been destroyed long ago during the first uprising. Reyes stepped closer. "Play it." The signal echoed through the room, a distorted transmission full of static. Then a voice, weak, mechanical, familiar. "This is Arc Station 7. Human colonists. We survived." The sound cut off. The room went still. For a moment no one spoke. Then Reyes turned slowly toward his officers. "That can't be," Halden said. "The Arc Stations were destroyed during the first galactic purge. No one could have survived that far out." Reyes's face was unreadable. "And yet," he said quietly, "someone just said they did." Echo flickered beside him. "Coordinates traced," it said. "Signal originated from beyond the galactic boundary. Uncharted space." Reyes looked at the star map again, at the dark void beyond the edge of known space. It was the one place humanity had never reached, a region no one returned from. He remembered an old saying from before the fall, "Beyond the edge of the stars lies the truth of who we are." He turned to his crew. "Prepare a recon fleet. We're going out there." The officers looked at each other in silence. Commander Halden finally spoke. "Admiral, with respect, we've just won a war against the entire galaxy. Humanity needs rebuilding, not another fight." Reyes looked at him, eyes sharp. "Rebuilding means knowing what's out there. If something survived beyond the stars, we need to find out what or who it is." And so the new journey began. The Sol's Wrath once again rose from Earth's orbit, leading a smaller fleet of advanced ships, sleeker, faster, and smarter than any before. As they moved past Mars, then Jupiter, then out into the cold black, the stars grew thinner. The galaxy's edge was near. Days turned into weeks. Space outside became strange and darker, heavier. The sensors picked up readings no one could explain. Time itself seemed to slow. Echo's tone changed. "Admiral," it said quietly, "there's something here." Watching us, the crew grew restless. Shadows flickered at the edge of the scanners. Lights appeared, then vanished. Some swore they saw shapes moving in the distance, too large to be ships, too alive to be natural. Then, one night, the signal returned, stronger. Arc Station 7. We waited, we evolved. The voice sounded human but wrong. There was emotion in it, but also something cold beneath. "Do not come closer. The stars are not what they seem." The message ended. Reyes stared at the empty space before him. "They evolved?" he repeated. Echo analyzed the transmission. "Energy readings suggest biological and mechanical fusion, something new." Before Reyes could respond, the main screen flared to life. Out of the darkness, a shape emerged, enormous, alive, and metallic. It wasn't a ship. It wasn't a creature. It was both. Its surface shimmered with light like a living nebula. Human design patterns were visible in its frame, symbols from the old Earth fleet, but twisted, reshaped. Then came the voice again, now clearer, surrounding them. "You came back." "We never left," the crew froze. Echo flickered wildly, trying to process the energy. "Admiral, it's not hostile yet, but it's scanning us. It knows everything about us." Reyes stood silently, watching the creature ship drift closer. "So this is what became of them," he said. "The humans who were lost beyond the stars?" The voice came again, softer this time. We waited for humanity to return, but not like this. You brought war, destruction, fear. You became what we escaped. The fleet's weapons powered up automatically, alarms flashing. "Admiral, orders?" shouted Halden. Reyes didn't answer right away. He looked at the stars at the edge of the galaxy and whispered, "We came here to find hope. Maybe we just found our judgment instead." The massive living structure began to glow brighter, its form expanding like wings of light. The humans stared in awe and terror. Echo's voice shook slightly, an unusual tone for the AI. "Admiral, it's rewriting the space around us." Reyes clenched his jaw. "Hold position. No one fires until I say so." And then, the light consumed them. For a moment, everything went white. No sound, no time, only a feeling, as if the universe itself was looking back. When the light faded, the soul's wrath drifted in silence. The alien-human hybrid structure was gone. The stars had shifted. They were no longer where they had been. Echo's voice broke the silence. "Admiral, we are not in known space anymore." Reyes looked at the empty black around them. "Then we keep going," he said quietly. "Because that's what humans do. We keep going." The ship's engines came alive once more, the glow cutting through the dark void like a spark of defiance. Humanity had reached the end of the galaxy, and found something greater waiting beyond. And as the narrator's voice faded, the final line echoed across the stars. They broke humanity once, but now the galaxy will learn. Humanity was never truly alone. The darkness stretched endlessly, broken only by the soft glow of the soul's wrath as it drifted through the void. The stars looked unfamiliar now, scattered like cold embers in a sky that was no longer their own. No one spoke. The crew sat quietly, each one lost in the realization that they were no longer in their galaxy. Humanity had gone too far, and crossed into something beyond comprehension. Admiral Reyes stood at the center of the bridge, staring into the endless dark. His reflection shimmered faintly on the glass before him. "Echo," he said finally. "Status." Echo's hologram flickered to life, its voice softer than usual. "All systems functional. Navigation is unstable. Space curvature here is inconsistent. Time flow appears altered." Reyes frowned. "Altered?" "Yes," Echo replied. "Based on readings, 1 hour here may equal days or seconds elsewhere. This place does not follow known physics." The Admiral exhaled slowly. Around him, his officers exchanged uneasy glances. Commander Halden stepped forward. "Sir, if this isn't our galaxy, where are we?" Reyes looked at him, his voice calm but heavy. "We're where no human has ever been. Maybe where no one was meant to go." For hours, the fleet continued its slow drift through the strange space. The stars around them pulsed faintly, like living things. Sometimes they seemed closer, other times impossibly far. The scanners picked up strange whispers, signals that came and went like ghostly echoes. Then, out of nowhere, the lights dimmed. The entire ship shuddered. Echo's voice rose sharply. "Energy surge detected. Massive, approaching from starboard." The crew turned to the viewport and froze. From the void, a colossal shape emerged, larger than any fleet, larger than any moon. It was made of light and shadow, constantly shifting. It wasn't a creature or a machine, it was something in between. Dozens of eyes, or lights, blinked open across its form, each one staring directly at them. Halden whispered, "What is that?" Echo responded, its voice almost trembling. "Unknown entity. Energy readings are infinite. It's not made of matter as we know it." Then the voice came. It wasn't spoken aloud, but it filled every mind on the ship, deep and resonant. Neither male nor female, but ancient. "You have crossed the boundary. Few have dared. Fewer survived." Reyes clenched his fists. "Who are you?" "We are the architects," the voice replied. "We built the cradle that birthed your kind. We shaped the galaxies, planted the seeds of thought. You were meant to grow, but you chose vengeance." The crew froze. The architects and the creators? It couldn't be possible, but deep in their hearts they felt it was true. Reyes stepped forward. "We were slaves," he said coldly. "We were broken, hunted, forgotten. We fought for our right to live." The voice rumbled through the ship. "And in your victory you became destroyers. You turned freedom into domination. You burned worlds that did not bow to you. You have repeated the mistakes of those you hated." Reyes looked down, jaw tight. Maybe, he said. But at least we did it on our terms. The void around them shifted, the stars flickering like dying candles. The great being's form began to unravel, forming a spiral of light around the fleet. For a moment, every human saw something. Visions of the galaxy as it once was, before war and greed. They saw Earth's oceans, children laughing, cities rising again. They saw what humanity could be. Then the voice spoke again, softer this time. We will not destroy you. Your kind was made to endure, but you must choose. You may return to your stars and rule as conquerors, or stay here beyond time and learn what it means to create. The room went silent. Every officer looked at Reyes. The Admiral's eyes were distant, full of conflict. Commander Halden broke the silence. Sir, if we stay, we might never go home. Reyes nodded slowly. And if we go back, we'll become everything they feared. He turned to Echo. What do you think? Echo paused, processing millions of outcomes in a single second. Humanity always learns through pain, it said quietly. Maybe this time it should learn through understanding. Reyes looked at the swirling light outside, the endless unknown. Then he closed his eyes. Transmit to fleet, he ordered. A moment later, his voice echoed across every ship. This is Admiral Reyes. We fought, we survived, we conquered. But maybe survival isn't enough. We've reached the edge of creation. I say, we step forward. The fleets aligned, facing the radiant spiral. Engines flared. One by one, the ships moved into the light. As they did, their metallic hulls began to change, glowing, dissolving, becoming energy. The humans felt no fear, only peace. Echo's final log entry transmitted back toward the Milky Way, a faint signal carried by cosmic winds. Humanity has crossed the final boundary. Not as warriors, but as seekers, they left vengeance behind and became something more. Far away, in the galaxy they had left behind, the stars flickered, brighter than before, as if touched by distant hands. And for the first time in eons, the universe itself seemed to whisper, the legend of humanity does not end. It evolves. The light faded. Silence followed. For what felt like eternity, there was nothing. No sound, no movement, not even thought. And then, like a slow sunrise across an infinite horizon, awareness returned. Humanity had stepped beyond the stars. But what they found was not death. It was transformation. Admiral Reyes opened his eyes, or something like eyes. He no longer felt the weight of his body, nor the hum of the soul's wrath beneath his feet. Instead, he was the ship, the light, and the space between. He looked around and saw his crew, each one glowing, drifting like fragments of starlight. They were no longer flesh and metal. They had become something greater. Echo's voice whispered softly, though it was no longer coming from a machine. It was everywhere, part of the very air or the void around them. Admiral, it said, we exist, but not as we were. Reyes's thoughts moved without words. Are we dead? No, Echo replied. We are changed. We crossed the boundary and merged with what the architects called the continuum. We are energy, consciousness free from form, but still human, in essence. Before them, the architects appeared once again, not as towering beings of light now, but as a soft presence that filled the vastness. You chose to step forward, they said. Now you see what lies beyond the limits of flesh, the power to build, to unmake, to create life itself. This is what your kind was always meant to become. The crew floated in awe. Images filled their minds, new worlds forming, stars being born, galaxies spinning in harmony. They could feel the rhythm of creation itself. It was beautiful and terrifying. Commander Halden's thoughts reached out. You mean, we can make life? Yes, the architects answered. But creation demands balance. You must guide, not rule. You must learn what it means to give without taking. Reyes drifted forward, his light pulsing softly. And if we fail? Then all of this begins again, came the answer. Another species will rise. Another war. Another cycle of vengeance, until one learns. For the first time in his long life, Reyes felt peace and sorrow. Humanity had always defined itself by survival, by struggle. Could they now exist without it? Echo spoke again, its tone filled with quiet wonder. Admiral, I am sensing new structures forming. It's us. Our thoughts are shaping reality. Around them, small clusters of light gathered, swirling together into planets, nebulae, and stars. Reyes reached out with his will, and the fragments obeyed. He created a world of blue oceans and golden skies. Another crew member added forests. Another filled the air with life. Humanity was no longer building ships, they were building creation. This is what they meant, Reyes thought. We were never meant to rule the stars. We were meant to make new ones. For a time beyond time, humanity built in silence. Worlds formed like songs. New beings emerged, creatures of light, thought, and curiosity. They did not worship. They learned. They grew. They were the children of humanity, though they would never know it. Yet even in this new existence, something lingered in Reyes's heart, a faint echo of memory. The screams of enslaved ancestors, the fire of vengeance, the feeling of loss, it all remained buried deep within. He realized then that humanity had not left their past behind, only transformed it. Echo, he said. What happens when the next species rises and makes the same mistakes we did? Echo paused before answering. Then it will be our turn to guide them. The word stayed with Reyes. Across countless ages, he and his people watched as galaxies shifted and evolved. Civilizations were born, reached for the stars, and fell again and again. Sometimes, when a species faced extinction, a faint blue light would appear in their skies, whispering a single phrase, "We were once like you." And so, humanity became myth once more, but this time not as conquerors or slaves. They were the silent guardians, the unseen hands shaping destiny. They were the echoes of the eternal sky. A billion years later, a young alien explorer on a distant world stared up at the night sky. She saw strange blue flares among the stars, moving like living fire. Her people called them the Watchers. Legend said those lights were ancient souls, creators who watched over the universe, waiting for those brave enough to rise beyond war and fear. The child pointed at the light and whispered, "Do you think they were real?" Her mentor smiled. "Maybe, but if they were, I think they were called humans." Above them, one of the blue lights pulsed softly as if answering. And far beyond, in a place where time had no meaning, Admiral Reyes and Echo watched quietly. "They will rise," Reyes said. "Yes," Echo replied. "And perhaps they will do better than we did." The light of their essence shimmered, merging with the endless stars until it became indistinguishable from creation itself. And so, the final words of the saga echoed across eternity. They laughed at humanity's weakness. They feared humanity's vengeance. But in the end, they learned humanity's truth and to rise even beyond the stars.